You know, when we usually think about a fable or like a classic romance, there's this expectation of clean lines. The moral boundaries are drawn in thick, permanent ink.
Right. Exactly.
The protagonist is purely good, the antagonist is undeniably bad, and the path to genuine connection is just a matter of defeating an obvious dragon.
Yeah.
But step into the real-world mechanics of human psychology and extreme wealth and calculated deception, and those clean lines completely vanish.
They really do. It gets messy.
Yeah, we're looking at a narrative landscape today that is incredibly murky.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the absolute definition of moral muddy waters. Because today, we are doing a deep dive into a modern morality tale pulled from a YouTube video by the channel Told by Elders. It's titled, Billionaire Pretends to be Homeless to Find True Love, Then This Happened.
Which I know sounds exactly like a daytime soap opera.
It totally does. But it actually operates as a massive high-definition magnifying glass on how we as humans desperately try to engineer authenticity.
Yeah, it forces us to look at the extreme lengths a person will go to when their environment completely insulates them from the very thing they need most.
Exactly.
We are looking at a protagonist, Adam Collins, who is a billionaire. He possesses everything society tells us to chase, right? Limitless capital, wild success, unassailable status.
All the things.
All of it. Yet his psychological reality is one of profound, aching starvation. He is entirely alone.
So what does this all mean? I want you, the listener, to try and imagine being in his position for a second. Imagine your net worth has grown so large that it eclipses your actual personality in every single room you enter.
Yeah, that's a heavy thought.
You genuinely cannot tell if anyone likes you for you or if they are just, doing the math on what you can provide for them. Every conversation feels like a pitch. Every relationship feels like a stealth negotiation. You are surrounded by people, but you are entirely isolated by your own bank account.
And the source text gives us a very clear look at the catalyst that pushes Adam over the edge with all this.
Oh, the bracelet scene.
Yes. He returns from a trip, clearly needing some form of human connection, and a woman in his life doesn't even ask how he is.
Not even a hello?
Nope. Her singular focus is on an expensive diamond bracelet she saw earlier. She literally demands, let me see the gift first.
And he asks her point blank, do you love me or do you love my money? And she doesn't even bother to lie.
She really doesn't.
He just says, I love the life you give me, and walks away with the jewelry. I mean, it's a brutal confirmation of his absolute worst paranoia.
What's fascinating here is the mechanism Adam chooses to solve this crisis.
Right.
Because, well, a normal person might seek therapy, or perhaps cultivate circles of friends who share similarly baseline wealth to remove the financial friction.
Who are in country club or something?
Exactly. But Adam does none of that. He decides that the only way to genuinely test for true love, to find a connection uncontaminated by his net worth, is to completely erase his identity and go deep undercover as a homeless man.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I have a major problem with Adam's methodology right from the jump.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
The narrative frames this as a noble quest for truth. But look at the mechanics of what he's actually doing here. He leaves his luxury behind, sure, but he doesn't just get a modest apartment and a minimum wage job.
Right. He swings the pendulum to the absolute most dramatic extreme.
Yes. He sits on the side of the road, claiming he hasn't eaten in days. He makes himself entirely reliant on the kindness of strangers. It's like Adam is a scientist conducting a social experiment, but he's using real people as his lab rats.
That's a great way to put it.
I mean, is it ethically sound to test someone's empathy through manipulation? He's effectively hacking human empathy.
He is simulating a crisis, and that distinction is vital.
Yeah.
He isn't experiencing systemic poverty. He is utilizing the ultimate privilege of extreme wealth, which is the ability to play poor with a hidden safety net.
Wow. Yeah.
He is manufacturing vulnerability just to see who takes the bait.
Exactly. It's poverty tourism disguised as a romantic quest. He's treating living, breathing people as variables in a stress test.
But the source text actually provides a brilliant structural counterweight to Adam's manipulative approach. And it arrives in the form of a man named George and his daughter, Emma.
The people who actually take the bait.
Right. George sees Adam on the side of the road, and George doesn't just toss a coin in a cup. He hands Adam his own lunch and then invites this complete stranger into their modest home.
Which, honestly, from a modern safety perspective, is wild.
Oh, completely.
Even Emma questions it. She asks her dad why he brought a strange man into their house. And George's answer is, like, the philosophical anchor of this entire story. He tells her, sometimes kindness matters more than knowing someone's name.
Yeah, that quote is so powerful. If we break down the opposing worldviews here, the friction is incredible.
Absolutely.
Adam operates from a place of intense defensive paranoia. He assumes everyone is a predator out to exploit his resources, so he preemptively deceives the world. George, on the other hand, operates from a place of radical, almost dangerous trust. Later in the text, when Adam asks George why he treats him like a son, George simply says, "Because every person deserves to be treated with dignity."
See, George isn't demanding Adam pass a test to earn his lunch or his roof. He views dignity as a baseline human right, whereas Adam views trust as something that must be aggressively audited before it can be granted.
And that audit requires a control group, which brings us to the narrative's foil.
Ah, yes. Enter Brian.
Right. To understand Adam's internal conflict, we are introduced to an antagonist named Brian. Brian is essentially a mirror reflecting the life Adam just abandoned.
Yep.
He is wealthy, highly successful, and relentlessly pursuing Emma, who is, working herself to the bone at the local market just to keep her family financially afloat.
But Emma refuses to play the game. Brian keeps showing up, trying to dazzle her with his status, and she repeatedly shuts him down.
She does.
She explicitly tells him she wants someone genuine. She delivers this fantastic line telling Brian, "The heart doesn't look at a bank account."
It's a great moment.
She is consciously turning down a life of guaranteed luxury because she recognizes that Brian's affection is entirely transactional.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at how Adam and Brian both utilize the fiat currency of trust, but from opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right.
They are two sides of the same psychological coin. They are both defined entirely by their proximity to capital, and they both view Emma not just as a person, but as a prize that requires a specific strategic approach.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Because Brian thinks he can just print his own moral currency.
Exactly.
He believes his wealth is so overwhelming that it bypasses the need for actual character development. He weaponizes his money, bluntly trying to purchase Emma's affection.
While Adam believes that artificially hiding his wealth gives him a blank moral slate, he thinks his forged identity allows him to earn her affection cleanly. But the underlying reality is that both men are utterly deceiving themselves about the mechanics of human connection.
They really are.
You cannot build an authentic relationship on a foundation of either financial coercion or fabricated identity.
And it creates this massive bubble of dramatic irony because Adam actually achieves his goal. He falls deeply in love with Emma.
He does.
He finds actual peace in her modest home, surrounded by George's radical trust, a peace he never once felt in his billion-dollar empire.
Yeah.
But the entire architecture of this relationship is built on a calculated lie.
A huge lie.
He's pretending to be someone he's not, purely to find someone who likes him for who he is. The cognitive dissonance is staggering.
And narratives built on massive cognitive dissonance eventually require a collapse. You cannot run a psychological experiment on human beings indefinitely without the emotional variables eventually exploding.
Which is exactly what happens. Brian, driven by immense jealousy that Emma is choosing this supposedly impoverished guy over his obvious wealth, hires a private investigator.
As one does when they have too much money and free time.
Right. And the investigator does what investigators do. He pulls back the curtain. He informs Brian that the homeless man sleeping in George's house is actually billionaire Adam Collins.
So the financial secret is out.
But here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because it isn't just a bank account that the investigator uncovers. This is the detail in the text that fundamentally shifts how we have to view Adam.
Oh, this part is wild.
The investigator reveals that Adam's legs are perfectly fine.
That is the pivot point from omission to active manipulation.
It completely changes the game. Adam hadn't just put on dirty clothes and asked for a sandwich. He had been faking a physical disability to elicit maximum sympathy.
Yeah.
He wasn't just hiding his money. He was artificially inducing pity.
This raises an important question about Adam's own self-worth, though.
How so?
Well, why would a billionaire feel the need to fake a handicap? It suggests a profound insecurity. Adam didn't trust that his baseline humanity, stripped of its wealth, was enough to warrant care or attention.
Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
He felt he needed a manufactured deficit to guarantee that Emma and George wouldn't abandon him. He replaced the shield of his billions with the shield of induced pity.
I have to throw this pushback out to you, the listener, because the text frames this as a tragic romance falling apart. But think about the reality of what Emma discovers here. Brian makes this information public. and the whole town finds out.
It's totally humiliating for her.
Completely. And when Emma confronts Adam, he tries to justify it by saying, I wanted to know if love was real. And Emma looks at him and delivers the most devastating, accurate response possible. She says, and for that, you used our trust.
It's such a gut punch.
I mean, can you really blame her for being furious? Adam didn't just hide a bank account. He manipulated her deepest sense of compassion.
Blaming her would be impossible.
Yeah.
She cuts right past the melodrama and hits the philosophical core of the conflict. She tells him, love is built on trust, not secrets. The source material leans heavily into this, noting that a lie always causes pain no matter the reason behind it. Adam's intense fear of being used for his financial resources ironically led him to ruthlessly extract Emma and George's emotional resources.
That is the perfect way to phrase it. He extracted their emotional labor. Emma is working herself to exhaustion at the market and then coming home to care for a man who could buy the market 1,000 times over, but who demands her care to soothe his own psychological wounds.
Exactly. He treated their genuine, scarce resources, their food, their time, their deep well of compassion as disposable variables in his Billionaire's stress test.
Okay.
He went searching for authenticity using the absolute tools of fraud.
I went searching for the one thing I wanted most, and I ended up losing it with my own hands. That's Adam's realization in the text.
A tough pill to swallow.
Really tough. His methodology destroyed the objective. And of course, an apology tour isn't going to fix a betrayal of that magnitude. Emma tells him straight up, some wounds don't heal with an apology. Words are entirely cheap at this point. His words have been proven to be counterfeit.
And when verbal currency is rendered completely worthless by repeated deception, the only remaining mechanism for communication is raw action.
Right.
The narrative has to force a scenario where Adam cannot lie.
And the story escalates dramatically here. Brian, enraged that Emma still rejects his advances even after Adam is exposed as a fraud, resorts to violence.
He really escalates things.
He hires men to set Emma and George's barn on fire, hoping to literally smoke them out of town.
Yeah.
It's chaos. The flames are out of control, and George is trapped inside the burning structure.
This is the crucible for Adam. This is where the theoretical experiment ends and absolute reality begins.
Yeah, Adam physically rushes into the burning building himself and manages to save George's life. Now, I have to be the skeptic here for a second.
Go for it.
We are talking about a billionaire. Realistically, why doesn't he just call in his private security team? Or hire a fleet of helicopters to drop water on the property? Running into a burning building without professional gear seems like a chaotic, reckless way to solve a problem when you have limitless capital at your disposal.
Well, from a purely logistical standpoint, you're right. Delegating the rescue to professionals would be safer and probably more efficient.
Right.
But from a psychological standpoint, delegating the rescue would have entirely failed to repair the specific trust deficit he created with Emma. Emma told him, trust doesn't come back through words, it comes back through actions.
Because his wealth was the original wedge in the first place.
Precisely. Using his wealth to put out the fire would simply reinforce the dynamic that his money is the ultimate problem solver. It would prove nothing about his character.
That makes perfect sense.
He had to put his own physical body, the only thing he actually shares equally with George and Emma, on the line. His billions couldn't breathe the smoke for him. His status couldn't shield his skin from the heat. The fire demanded real sacrifice, not a wire transfer.
Wow. He finally had to stop testing them and allow himself to be tested.
Exactly.
That trial by fire is what forces the narrative resolution. The police trace a suspicious vehicle back to Brian's men, leading to his arrest, which shows that Brian's weaponized wealth eventually collapsed in on itself as well.
A nice parallel there.
Yeah. And Emma, seeing that Adam didn't retreat to his penthouse when the situation got genuinely lethal, realizes his physical courage is the one truth he didn't fabricate. She forgives him.
They get married, and the text highlights a very specific vow Adam makes at the altar: no more secrets.
Which is really the only vow that actually carries weight after a psychological labyrinth like this.
Absolutely.
But the text doesn't let the story end at the altar. It zooms out to show the broader societal impact of Adam's shift in perspective. In the epilogue, we learn that Adam stops hoarding his capital. He opens a massive foundation and a center specifically dedicated to people who feel alone and forgotten.
Yeah.
He tells Emma that she taught him real wealth comes from the heart and that kindness is the one kind of wealth that never runs out.
He shifts from aggressively protecting his assets to actively distributing his compassion.
Yeah.
He leverages the power he was so afraid of into an engine for the exact empathy he went searching for on the street.
And for you listening, I think that is why examining a story like this is so valuable. Yes, it has the extreme heightened stakes of a modern fable, but it holds a mirror up to a very ordinary daily human insecurity.
It really does.
We all harbor this quiet dread about our own authenticity. We all want to be loved for the core of who we are, not for our job titles, the network we provide, or the utility we offer to someone else's life. Adam's billionaire status just allowed him to act out an insecurity that most of us feel on a much smaller scale every time we try to impress someone new.
I think there is one final piece of this psychological puzzle that is worth pulling apart. A thought for you to really sit with long after we finish here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Look strictly at the timeline of the text. At the very beginning of the story, Adam is sitting on top of an empire surrounded by billions of dollars, and he explicitly states he feels alone. He is in a palace, but he is dying of isolation.
Right.
At the very end of the story, he builds a center for the alone and forgotten. And the text implies he is inspired to do this because of his time living out on the streets.
Okay.
This suggests something incredibly profound about the mechanics of human connection. It implies that the crushing, paralyzing loneliness Adam felt at the beginning of the narrative wasn't exclusively a billionaire's problem.
Wait, so it wasn't just a symptom of his tax bracket?
No, it is a universal human condition that completely ignores economic class. The man sitting in the penthouse and the man sleeping on the pavement were suffering from the exact same emotional starvation.
Wow. That reframes the entire experiment.
It leaves you to wonder, did absolute financial security inherently isolate Adam from his shared humanity? By removing all friction from his life, did his wealth accidentally remove all meaning?
That's deep.
And did he have to completely strip away his power to literally feel the heat of the fire and the hunger of the street, to realize that the cure for his own intense loneliness wasn't hiding from the world, but rather actively helping others who felt the exact same way he did?
He had to become vulnerable, to become visible. It brings us right back to the beginning. The story we thought we were analyzing wasn't about a prince finding a princess to save him from his castle. It was a study of a man realizing his impenetrable castle was actually a prison.
Perfectly said.
And the only way out was to tear down his own walls, step into the messy, muddy waters of real human vulnerability, and put his own skin in the game. Because that's the only place genuine connection can actually take root. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the mechanics of the stories around you, and we'll catch you next time.